Great, thank you. Good morning. First, we would like to thank everyone for taking time out of your day to listen to us. Hopefully parking wasn't too difficult. We are Team Lambda 1, and today we would like to present to y'all a new paradigm for the treatment of implant infections. So, we believe the greatest business ideas are the ones that find creative solutions to difficult problems in the world. In 2020, we have a problem to solve. The number of orthopedic implants are frequent and they're increasing at a rapid rate. Many times, these implants are infected, and treatment of these infections are significant and costly. The orthopedic implant market is a massive market with even greater cost. Knee implants alone are rising at a rate of 337% by 2025, totaling to over 4 million new procedures and costing patients $1.6 billion. In addition, there's a 16% recurrent infection upon replacement of these surgical procedures. So, our client, Solenic Medical, has a solution. It's a non-invasive medical device which treats these infections, and is also safety assured and is backed by capital funding and clinical trial success.
I'll continue with the problem. So, in orthopedic implants, infections are a common issue. With any surgery, infections may be a risk. And so, specifically within orthopedic implants, the biofilm layer is a complex structure that is not able to be penetrated by antibiotics. So, you have to come up with another solution. The current standard of care is to slice in through muscle, tear apart ligaments and tendons, and drill into bone. Now that's risky, and it can be complicated, especially when your patient is in their 60s, 70s, or even 80s. So, our client came up with an innovative solution. They're able to use alternating magnetic fields to pinpoint the implant, leaving the surrounding tissue intact. No surgery, no invasive procedures. This non-invasive approach provides a better value for patients and physicians. We see here that the heat on the surface is going to kill off the bacteria. And you're left with an implant that no longer has an infection. This provides values for patients. You don't have to do surgeries. There's no risk of hemorrhaging, blood clots, or even death. So this is a prototype, and it shows you what it looks like. Essentially, when you go to CVS and you put your arm in a blood pressure machine, that's kind of what it is. It's a 360 view around your joint. It can be on your arms or your legs, any extremity. Beyond that, in terms of safety, there's the hydrophone. It's so sensitive that it can hear even one cell bursting. One cell. And through a feedback mechanism, it's able to relay it back to the machine to prevent any sort of issues from ever occurring. Lastly, this is an artist's depiction. It's easy, it's small, and it's mobile. So we believe that it will be easy to commercialize.
So when our team first met with Solenic, the question was posed to us, what market/strategy should Solenic focus on? So this is where we came in. This is where we focused the value of our presentation for Solenic. Specifically answering the question, this is the market you should target. This is the strategy you should follow. So when we look at Solenic, as Yanni mentioned, there are two main patent-pending technologies that they have. The AMF, the alternating magnetic field technology, and then the hydrophone. So with these, we evaluated different markets that Solenic could look at. Obviously, it was intended for the medical orthopedic market, so that's where we first started. And within medical, there's different orthopedic areas, such as knees, hips, shoulders, any sort of orthopedic joint. But we also looked at other applications as well if medicine were to work out. Energy was a top one, as well as some other industries. In addition, we wanted to focus on certain strategies, and our team identified 3 strategies that Solenic could follow. First and foremost, they can manufacture the design in-house once FDA process goes through. The second strategy they can follow is licensing. Consider big medical manufacturing companies like Stryker and Johnson & Johnson. They could easily license that technology out to them, just have medical manufacturing go through them. And of course, the last option is to sell and divest the company, cut the losses, and move on to the next project. So in order to figure out what market they should focus on, going back to the original question that was posed to us, we did a top-down market analysis of each area. And by far the largest market that we found was orthopedic knees, and here's why. Currently in the United States, there are 4.7 million Americans with an orthopedic knee implant. As Sonny mentioned earlier in the presentation, this number is expected to increase by 337% by 2025. This is mainly due to the rapidly aging elder population and standard of life being much longer in the United States. That means by 2025, there will be roughly 15.8 million Americans with an orthopedic knee implant. Now, the incident rate for orthopedic knees is about 1 to 2% of infection. So taking these numbers, that means in 2025, roughly 158,000 to 316,000 Americans will have some sort of orthopedic knee-related infection. Now, Solenic targets specifically biofilm infection, and 65% of all orthopedic knee infections are biofilm related, which is the target market which Solenic is going after, which means Solenic's target market in 2025 is 102,000 to 206,000 patients. So, Going back to the main question that Solenic posed to us, what market should we focus on, what strategy should we focus on? Using their patented technologies, we're recommending the market they focus on is orthopedic knees. It's the largest market by far and the best place where they can make revenue. Strategy-wise, we're recommending is manufacturing in-house. With medical devices, you really need to develop a branding and clout in order to make sure you can really become that standard of care. So Solenic has to work several years building up that brand reputation. For this reason, licensing doesn't work out because in order to license to things such as Stryker and Johnson & Johnson, you have to be seen as that standard of care. Think of an ultrasound machine. It's several years before Solenic can be considered something as standard as an ultrasound machine. And of course, divesting the company doesn't make sense. The executive leadership that Solenic has a wealth of knowledge, decades worth of experience in the medical field as well as in the venture field. And it'd be a waste to throw that away. So answering Solenic's question, the value providing, we're recommending focusing on the knees, orthopedic knee market, and the strategy they focus is manufacturing in-house and selling directly to hospitals. So with that, let's talk about the financials.
Okay, so now that we know that Solenic should pursue the knee replacement market, we wanted to further add value by helping them understand how much that market can be worth to them. So we determined that the biggest driver for Solenic's revenue is going to be how many procedures the device is used in. So we looked at, in year 5, we used a very conservative estimate, and so by the end of year 5, they can be doing about 400 per year. Now, again, that's a very conservative estimate. If you look at the projected market we had, that was about 100,000 people. So you're looking at less than 0.5% of market penetration. So this is ultra conservative. And with that roughly 400 operations, they would have a net income at the end of year 5 of about $2.8 million. So now we wanted to know at the end of year 5, how much could this company be worth? So what we did is we looked at other medical device companies on the stock market, and it turns out they typically have a pretty high price to earnings ratio of around 30. Now we took that number, again, we're being conservative, way down. So when I said new venture, we took it to 6, just being as conservative as possible. And we used a required rate of return of 30% and determined that with that $2.8 million net income in 5 years, they could be worth $4.6 million. So not bad. So now we wanted to talk about what does Solenic need to do in the short term and in the long term in order to get there. So in the short term, the company needs to focus on clearing the hurdles of the clinical trials and the FDA approval process. This is, obviously everything hinges on the success of these two things. And we think the company is well poised to do this because of the support they have in place from big technologies. But again, they need to ensure that this happens correctly. And then in the long term, they need to start setting up relationships for manufacturing. So this means relationships up and down the supply chain and then with manufacturers themselves, so that as soon as they're approved for market, they can go ahead and get that device on the market. Another thing we determined is, based off of what they're learning with the knees, is it takes a while to do the testing and the FDA process. So as soon as they can afford to do so, they should start doing that same process for other joints such as hips, knees, and shoulders and elbows. And then the other thing is, as we talked about, conservatively, this company can be worth as much as $5 million in the next 5 years. So the company should remain open to opportunities to being acquired. It's not hard to imagine a company like Stryker wanting to acquire this company to add its technology to its portfolio in the coming years. So with that being said, we would like to thank you and open the floor for questions.
I don't have a bunch. I have a medical device company, and I'm a doctor.
Oh, we have it on.
Okay. So, do you have a reimbursement code for this yet? Or will you have to get one?
So currently it's going to be miscellaneous, and under that, they're going to move forward from there.
So you have to go
They're
through-
estimating it would be about $2,500 of reimbursement per procedure.
I mean, if you got a biofilm infection, you'll get that probably. Given the choices, that's good. But the process of getting through that can be difficult. FYI. And then, just off the top of my head, you're basically saying this technology can take a metal and heat it up so rapidly that you actually burn the biofilm without damaging the surrounding tissues? Am I hearing that correctly?
Well, it's going to be within a millimeter of safety. So it's able to be controlled to the point that it's within a millimeter of
Did
it.
you guys consider using something like this for cancer?
That's a great question. I think that was a little beyond what we were tasked with doing, but I think that would be a very interesting application.
There's
for sure.
a ton of money there as well. And that market could be huge. Maybe you could tag molecules with metals, hit the cancer cells. My gosh, what you could possibly do is astonishing. I could come up with a variety of different ideas.
Yeah, it's the same technology in like an induction stove. So you know, like you can touch an induction stove at the same time as it's heating your pan. So it's the same thing. So it doesn't heat the skin around it. But yeah, so that's interesting.
My question is a little more broader than that. I know you guys didn't have a lot of time to talk to us today, but this is a great technology. However, did you guys do a little bit of due diligence into, is there a competitor out there that does the same thing? And what's the advantage over that competitor?
So I can address that. So some other ideas that came are CRISPR for bacteriophages to pinpoint it. There's Garwood, which also has biofilm process. They're in the patent, or have a patent. There are other competitors, but what we really addressed was their market and their ability to do it. So we can see some of the other competing technology.
Yeah, go for it.
Has Solenic ever manufactured anything before?
No, this is a new venture. It started up over a year ago.
So their like parent company, I would say, or their main investor, has a portfolio of technology companies. So they kind of have this built-in infrastructure, and their CEO as well, who came from BIC, has a lot of experience. So I think they have a pretty good support structure in place to help navigate some of those problems.
How many treatments do you have to go through? How many times do you go into this machine and doing that? What does that look like?
Good question.
So it's still going through the FDA process, so they don't have a firm number for that yet. Fortunately, we just have to wait and see when that goes through.
Go back to your phage comment. Did they do any connection with phage banks? And do they know exactly what the bacteria names are that they are cleaning? You know, phage bank is a cocktail that's designed specifically for
Time.
kill that bacteria.